All right, everybody, welcome back to the Financier. We are doing another edition, this time more on finance and investing. I have a special guest and friend joining us today. We're going to talk about private equity, fundraising, and meditation. It's a big ask. It's a lot of stuff happening in that environment, both from investing. Obviously, a lot has changed in the last 12 months. Fundraising definitely is a hot topic. And then Tina has her own business that we're going to talk about, why it's important to take a minute to rest and relax. So without further ado, Tina, Sodhi, welcome. How are you doing?
Well, I'm so happy and glad to be here, helping out a friend as well as talk something that I'm so passionate about, both private equity and breathing.
Yeah. So it's been a lot. We haven't seen each other in a while. So it's, a lot has changed. Why don't you give us a quick background about how you got into the space and private equity first, right? What do you do in the space? And then we'll kind of go into the environment a little bit first.
Sure. So I've been in the private equity space since after college. That's all I know. It's one of those growing asset classes that, so before I tell you about it, but, I've been in it, was an investor for a long time, building portfolios, and then went in-house to a GP, and then have been for the last 10 years been a advisory role, raising capital on the primary side of things for private equity, venture capital, and also on the secondary, we are advising investors that are looking to optimize their portfolio. So that's been my experience.
What made you decide you wanted to get into the space? There's been a lot. You've been in the space for a very long time, so there's a lot of things that have changed. Probably when you started your career, there were probably
Yes.
a lot of opportunities, but you stuck with one industry for a very long time.
Well, what's great about private equity is you are taking businesses and growing them and making them profitable. And so that whole evolution of it, to see it from scratch, to the end is just more rewarding. And I think it's the most robust industry, and with some of the most smartest people. And so it has just kept me moving and continuing to stay in there, even though I found a passionate job or product that I really wanted to do, but I still believe that private equity has some really good opportunities, and so I've been sticking to it. And I think for me, it's been the roles that I've played in it. It's really starting off with just understanding how to build a portfolio, how to think through investing in the private equity, which are the right opportunities within it. Then I realized that there's so much to offer to others on that experience. And so having that LP hat on when I'm speaking to investors in investing in our different products that Triago is offering is really rewarding. And it's allowing me to also grow and with it. So it's really good.
So you work for a European firm.
Yes.
Let's quickly talk about that relationship. How do you work for someone that's not in the United States? And then what's the need for the firm? Like, why are people coming to you guys for fundraising?
Well, I mean, we're just headquartered in Paris, but it's a firm that's been around for 30 years. So Triago started in 1992, but has 50% of their revenue comes from North America. And so we are a global firm with offices in Paris, New York, London, and Dubai, and have products in North America as well as Western Europe. And we are serving as a global, high-end placement agent services to our providers. So we don't consider ourselves a European manager. Second, I'm based in the New York office. We're covering all of North America investors and GPs, and we are offering, an amazing different products that can be a good fit for any investors. Could be a family office, could be insurance company, institutional, fund of funds, or a pension plan. So from a turnaround fund to a buyout fund to a credit opportunity fund. And at this moment where the market is so frothy, that every portfolio is different. So if we can cater to every portfolio by providing them different opportunities to invest in, that's what really gets me excited. Especially private equity, from the time, as mentioned, from the time I started, so the biggest thing that I noticed is the women. There were so few women in private equity when I was a limited partner and going to these annual meetings. Mm-hmm. And now it's such a good evolution of how many more women have come in. And it makes me really proud that a lot of the private equity firms have started making women as partners. And now we have women-owned firms as well. So that really has been the biggest growth in this industry.
Yeah, that's when I used to work in capital introductions. So most of the women used to be in investor relations and capital raising. And now it's pretty cool to see them as PMs, as partners, senior managers, really taking the lead roles.
We can still do a better job at this. And so I am so glad to be at Triago, providing that for my investors as well as for the GPs to promote more of this diversity, minority, all sorts of diversity among the private equity space. I mean, it's a 1.6 trillion. So
it's big. It's big. Yes. So we'll get back to the event that you're going to speak at soon, but let's talk about now. From my recollection, most fundraising in the environment in the past, it's an in-person event. It's a very relationship-driven industry. What's happened in the last 12 months that has, it's boomed. The market's hot. A lot of people are raising money from the entire spectrum. How has it either made your job easier or the environment easier or harder?
Well, so this is the statistics I got, which made me even more realize that fundraising is something that will keep on going no matter what market you're in. 2019, 570 billion was raised for funds. Mm-hmm. In 2020, it was 514 billion. The year that we were in sort of in the darkest period when it came to how we're going to do our business, money was being raised. I mean, we signed a buyout first-time fund on March 3rd. March 13th, the world shut. We had our first close for a fund like that on April 30th. And we were oversubscribed by June 30th, 2020. While the world was thinking that no one is doing any business because everybody shut down.
Right.
So it just this is why I love my job. Like there are enough investors who believe that there's always going to be an opportunity to invest. And there are some folks that just know this is a long-term, game. And so nothing is stopping them, and nothing is stopping us from finding those amazing managers that we find high conviction, and we'll find the investors for them.
That's
so
amazing.
Fundraising is something that, so the one thing that the observation I've made is that there's a lot of investors, money that's been put to work. So a lot of capital has been committed to, but not enough liquidation is being provided. There's not enough distribution. So there's going to be that gap between the dry powder that's sitting there and not enough distribution coming in. And which is where we are seeing the secondary market getting super hot at the moment.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's one of the reasons why these SPACs are very popular, because of the liquidity it provides.
Yes. Yes. So liquidity is what's being the big problem at the moment.
Got it.
And so, you have all sorts of investors. The endowments and foundations have their allocation issues, and you've got the pension plans. And so having any sort of liquidity helps with the investors. And so we are seeing, because Triago does the primary fundraising as well as the secondary advisory. And so we're seeing a lot of transactions happening in the secondary market. And these are not like distressed sellers.
Mhm.
These are just smart sellers that are looking to optimize on their portfolio while it's hot, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of secondary players that have raised record amount and have a lot of dry powder. So their momentum is to pay a decent price
Yeah.
for a decent portfolio and put that to work. So the momentum couldn't be better right now for any investor that is thinking that, oh, I'm tight, I don't have all the money to be putting to new or re-ups. It's a
Yeah.
good time to look at their portfolio and think of secondary transactions.
It's good. It's a hot market. Still have a lot of steam, and there's $1.9 trillion coming to the market. So there's a lot more momentum behind us.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's phase into your hobby or your pastime where you spend a lot of your time outside of work. It's very much related to your job, so I'm not going to actually call it a hobby. So let's talk about the event that's coming up. You're doing. I forget what's the day. Is it next week or the week after?
It's on Wednesday, next
Wednesday.
Wednesday, March 17th. I'm very grateful to Grace Reyes, who's
Yeah.
the founder of Tide. Tide is the investment.
Inclusion, diversity, right?
Exactly. And I am the opening act of doing a breathing session for all the attendees. And this is a great conference. I hope that a lot of folks do, can register and join in. It's going to be a market update. And it's not only North America, but coming from Asia as well. So you'll get a good perspective of the global market. But before that is my breathing session. And, the whole thing, I've been practicing yoga meditation for the past 20 years. And I myself had a breakdown from the stress that was being created. And I learned tools that can help me manage my stress. And when that happened, all the challenges that started coming, or now that I deal with, it's not something that gets me winded up, right? I'm no longer getting upset about it or feeling the physical pain in my body. It's almost sort of the stress, which is inevitable, but it's not affecting my way of thinking. So what is breathing doing? It's the regulated breathing exercises, the mindful, we say it, mindful exercises. All we're doing is tapping into our autonomic nervous system, strengthening it, and able to clear our mind, think more clearly, and feel good. So I'm super excited to share this because that's something that what I've been doing. And I started this in 3 years ago from the clients that I was raising capital for.
Yeah.
Would see me deal with stress in a very calm way. And so they're like, what, can you share what how are you able to manage the stress so smoothly? And it was more of the mindset that shifted me. And I shared, my experiences. And so it just made sense that these tools are something that anyone can practice anywhere So why not share it with them? And that's how Art of Breathing started.
So before we wrap up, you have 1 or 2 tips for people that are watching this? Like, what do you recommend, or a preview of what you do, like on a daily, or what you recommend for someone on like a 30-second clip?
Yeah, well, whenever you're feeling stressed out, just take a moment and take long, deep breath from your belly. Just 3 to 5 of them will just get your nerves to calm down. Mm-hmm. Right there, that will just make you realize how much clarity you will get, right? And then if you are open to, so my whole thing is, if any corporation, any organization that is interested in having a 15 to 20 minute complimentary breathing session for their employees, I'm happy to do that. You just have to reach out to me.
Perfect. So there we have it. Do you have anything you'd like to let people follow up on, like how they can get a hold of you, or what's the best way to get in touch?
Sure. On LinkedIn, it's Tina Sodhi, which gives you Triago information. So any first-time fund managers or third time, if you are looking for a placement agent, we are there. We've been around for 30 years and would love to help you. And on the Art of Breathing also, you can get in touch with me on Tina Sodhi, same. But if you want to follow me, it's Art of Breathing NYC on Instagram as well as Facebook.
Perfect. Thank you, Tina. So there we have it, everybody. Thank you for joining in again. We talked about private equity, fundraising, how the environment has changed over the last 30 years, and obviously the art of breathing, why it's important to rest and relax throughout the day so you can continue to work and enjoy life. There you have it. Thank you, Tina, again. Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.